Hear ye, hear ye. Let it be known across the 7 seas and all the travel industry lands. The cruise content library pre-sale is about to set sail, and if you haven't grabbed your access yet, now's the time to get on board. This treasure trove of ready-to-use cruise content is perfect for travel advisors who want to stop staring at a blinking cursor and start showing up online with confidence. Think reels, emails, and so much more. All done for you and all cruise focused. But hear this loud and clear, sailor. The pre-sale disappears after March 31st. And on April 1st, this message will self-destruct. No fooling. Welcome back to the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast, everyone. I am so excited to have you here for our final installment of the content creation series. If you're new around here, hello, my name is Rita M. Perez. I've been in the industry, oh boy, it'll be 15 years later this year, which, yeah, I didn't realize that until just now when I looked at the time, knowing the time, but still, wow, time flies really, 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 and I feel like I've been reinvigorated since then, too, because there's been many different iterations of the businesses that I have within the travel industry as well. Anyways, no, not here nor there. It's just a revelation that I was having. But I'm back in the States. Woohoo! 2, I'm grounded for a little bit. It's been a whirlwind. I'm like, I don't know where March went. I was helping out on a couple of fam trips, one with a host agency and one with a publication, and was not only getting content for the groups that were there, but also getting content for you who are members of the cruise content library, and then also teaching on board. So I taught about content creation the first time around, and then I was teaching a lot about AI the second time around, and AI specifically when it comes to marketing your business. So if you are not following me on social media or a part of my Facebook group, I did announce some kind of really big AI announcements that have happened in this past week. And I think they're relevant to this conversation because I do use AI for a lot of my content creation efforts. And so the first one of my favorites, Claude, I use it for a lot of copywriting, and I use it especially to do a lot of repurposing for the podcast. It was not open to the internet, so it could not access the internet. So pretty much you would have to start fresh with every single conversation that you were having. I'm not sure if I hope that will be something that changes, but I'm not sure that will change just yet. What internet access really means for Claude right now is that you will have more accurate, more up-to-the-date information. It can comb through more information instead of just looking at the bank of information that it's built on. So I think that is really, really exciting that Claude is now on the interwebs. And then even bigger announcement, or as equal announcement, came within the past couple of days with ChatGPT. It was funny because we had made this example at TMP on the River last week where I was sharing different ways that you can create graphics. Well, if you've tried creating graphics on AI before, it's not the best thing. It doesn't do a really great job with that. And it was announced that ChatGPT upgraded their image creator, and holy guacamole. Depending on when you're listening to this, you can definitely check out my Instagram stories, or I did put a LinkedIn post, or if you're in my Facebook group, I did put a comparison there of a graphic that I created to help boost your January River sales before this update and then after this update. The new image just looks so much more cleaner. It looks so much more realistic. And the words you can actually read. They are not blurred, because that was a big downside of a lot of that, the AI images. If you were creating things with words, it's kind of like your pure Avenger. So it just proves that really the version of AI that we're using right now is the worst version that it'll ever be. Like, it just is going to keep getting better. I didn't think it would get better like within a week of me teaching it, but that's pretty cool that it did. So yeah, and if you're kind of like, you're teaching on AI, what are you talking about? Hopefully soon I will be putting those workshops together. Definitely be an accessible cost. So stay tuned, especially dun dun dun. There's lots of big things happening around here. I know. We're going to get to the content creation part, but I do like to update you on a couple big things that are coming your way. Specifically in April, save the dates for April 15th through 17th, 2025. If I have the link ready, I'll go ahead and I'll put it in here so that you can get added to like the sign up list. But the cruise content library is officially launching in April, and I am so excited to bring you amazing education to this incredible launch event. I'm still working on my speakers, which is why I'm like, I don't want to fully announce it yet, but I do have a lot of little things up my sleeve to make this an extra special time. Also, just to say a huge thank you to everybody who has gotten in on the cruise content library thus far. I know it's taken much longer to get everything together, so I appreciate your patience and just truly thank you so much for all the really great feedback. If there's anything that you would love to see coming to the cruise content library, once I get caught up on all of the content updates, I am going to really be focusing on supplementary resources to really help you out. And I just can't wait to see what we have and what we create. Like, really, this is not possible without you. Clearly I'm like tongue tied here. It's not possible without you. And I have really big goals, and that's only accomplished through you who support the cruise content library, share it out with your friends, with your colleagues, with all the groups who it might be a benefit to, because this is really going to be sped through the users who are inside there. So I cannot wait to support you with marketing your cruise business. So that's one thing that's coming down the pipeline. Then, it's almost Travel Tech Audio Summit time. And so that will be coming just a couple weeks after the Cruise Content Library launch event. And so I'm already signing up some of the really amazing speakers of technology. And I feel like this year is going to be a bit eclectic. Like, we're going to have technology from here, technology from there. And I just can't wait to put that out. So also be on the lookout for that. If you are a previous registrant/attendee of Travel Tech Audio Summit, be on the lookout for your emails too, because there's a couple of really amazing changes that you might be noticing. And so I'll make an announcement via email first before I formally announce that. But yes, as you can see, lots of really great resources coming to you and your travel business in the very immediate future, which helps us get to our last episode. Could you believe we're already on episode 4 of the content creation series? So we started this 4-ish weeks ago, where you laid the foundation with the blueprint. Then we went on to actually creating the content and how you can do that without feeling overwhelmed. Last week's episode was all about getting your content seen, because it's one thing to create the content, it's another to get that in the right places. This episode, I want to be a little bit more tactical about that content creation sales funnel. Because yes, we need to put out content. Yes, it needs to be seen by other people, but what's the purpose of the content It is to nurture people so that at the end of the day, they are making sales with you and your travel business. So there's a couple of different ways that we do that and we think about that. So let's get into exactly what is a sales funnel. So I'm sure you have all heard of like that marketing funnel. It kind of marketing and sales go hand in hand. Sales happen because of marketing. Marketing needs to drive people into doing sales. So it's like you have a cohesive relationship, but there's they do different-ish things because marketing really ups the visibility. Sales is converting them to actual clients. They're not just leads anymore. So when you're thinking about creating content for your business, you also need to think about where people are at in your marketing funnel, because not everybody is going to be in the same place. And this is also why it's important to create different types of content. Not only because of these different stages, but also people consume content differently. So we have the top of funnel, which is going to be your widest audience. The widest amount of people that you have is that the top of the funnel. Because I mean, if you're actually looking at a funnel, the larger contents of a liquid or whatever might be going into the funnel starts at the top. So it's like this huge like deluge of liquid or matter or whatnot. And then once we get to the bottom of the funnel, it's less and less and it gets tighter and tighter. So top of funnel content is really going to be a lot of that like general content, thinking about those new eyes. How can you really attract those new eyeballs to stick with you? That awareness content. It's not going to be any of this salesy content. So if you have been putting a lot of sales content out there and you're wondering why people aren't necessarily purchasing from you, it could be because of that, because they don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. They don't know how to trust you. You have to build that. And again, you have to mix the different levels of the content as well. This is also why I'm a huge proponent. Like every post that you post cannot just be a sales type of post. Sales type of posts actually get the least amount of engagement because they are sales posts. Can they be the most impactful? Of course, because obviously you're making sales from them. But you do have to create lots of different types of content. Then you have like your nurturing area, your middle of the funnel, which is a lot more about building trust. So, I love going back to the dating analogy. So the top of the funnel is like if you're going on a dating app and you're trying to find somebody who might be compatible with you. So you're not going to lay out all the different chips that might actually be there because you might freak somebody out. They don't know who you are just yet. They're trying to get to know a little bit about you. Whereas that middle of the funnel is you've been talking for a couple weeks on the app, and so now you're going to ask them to go on a date because you're interested. You want them to like stick around with you. So that middle of funnel really is helping to build trust. This is going to be like your educational content, any personal content that you share, inviting them to stick around with you, not just be a lurker on your content. And then that bottom of funnel really is to give them the next step, aka in the dating world that might be engagement or moving in or something like that. You're not going to start right away asking them to do all those things. After they've gotten to know you for some time and feel comfortable that you're the right person that they want to work with, this is when we give them the next step. But again, anybody that's like coming on your social media, if you're doing YouTube, if you're doing blogging, you've got to mix this content up on these platforms because people are coming in at different stages. So you might have people that you've known for years who like, we can skip the top of funnel because they already know about you. They trust you quite a bit. So they're just waiting for you to put the right type of content out there that they're ready to book their next trip again. So mixing it up is really, really important when we're talking about like, this is the base of that sales funnel. why this all matters really is because if you are just putting content out without being intentional behind it, sure, like some people are going to enjoy it, but you are going to be there like so frustrated behind your computer being like, why is nothing working for me? And it's because you have not been intentional with the content that you're putting out there. And success from content happens from so many different avenues. It is not a linear line. And I remember when I was first hearing about this, that marketing isn't linear, I was like, what do you mean? I market myself, people like me, then they buy from me. Like, that's how it should be. Technically, that's how it is. But it may take a couple months. It may take a couple years. It may take like a day if they really love you and all that. So again, like this does take a little bit of time, and you do have to have intention behind it, because I don't want you feeling like, oh, I didn't do the right thing. And that's also why I think last week's about search engine optimization and your content distribution plan is super important, because that, I feel, is the most important thing that gets missing from this conversation, as well as the sales funnel, is that you make the content, but you're not creating new contacts to enjoy that content. We focus a lot on like the content creation process and putting the content out there, but you also need to have this pool, this community of people to enjoy this content. And then you also need to be strategic that they can't just be enjoying this content. You want them to take the next action. You want them to be working with you. So like a really great example, and I'm sure some of you may be listening and you're like, oh, this is me, because I've heard this story a couple times in the past couple months, where many of you are consuming my content here on the podcast. You may have then attended one of my fall events, or you've attended one of my workshops or anything like that. And then we continue on with that relationship. You're taking all the tips, all the tricks and everything that I'm putting out there, between the free information here on the podcast, the paid information that I have in my trainings, and you're implementing that in your travel business, and you're becoming top performers, which is incredible. If this is you, I would love to hear your story and what you have found that you're implementing that's really making an impact. So shoot me a message, because I love to hear your story. The same thing can happen with your audience. It's just a little bit different because we do different things. So if you're putting out blog posts every single week and you're promoting that in your email list and having your email list have your emails link up to your new blog posts, and you have avid listeners reading every week, learning every week, salivating with the different travel offerings that you have, at some point they're going to reach out to you and be like, oh my gosh, I think this is the trip that we want to take. Or I think we're finally in the right spot to take this trip. Or you know what, I'm so burnt out, I need to take this trip right now. So you've got to nurture them a little bit through this sales funnel. Where I'm saying that I want to get a little bit practical and tangible is that this can come in a couple of different ways. So I want you to do like a little audit now. How are people finding you and your business? What types of content are they consuming from you? How are they taking the next step? Is this booking a discovery call with you? Do you have an inquiry form that has a couple of basic questions and then they can filter that off to you? Is it maybe that they submit an inquiry form and then you set up a discovery call? There's lots of different ways that this can happen. It can also be maybe it's just somebody calls up your office and is like, hey, I'm ready to book a trip. And then you let them know how your process is, send them the agreement, send them the fee invoice, and then start working from that way. So really evaluate that, because it's not just one way that people can take action with you. It's a couple of different ways, and some things might work a little bit better than others. And this is also why it's important too to have people may not be ready to get on a discovery call with you, but they might be ready to read your emails. So maybe instead of that being a focus of your calls to action, getting on a discovery call, your focus is, hey, I have this free resource for you to download. And then they can consume that, feel more comfortable. And then when they're ready, they go ahead and they pull the trigger to enlist your services. So building their trust with content really happens before the sales. We're kind of like building this up. If you can see like the different levels of the funnel, people will definitely buy from you if they trust you. So your content needs to be infused with you. And this is why, again, I will refer to this year as the year of humanity. Because while we are using amazing resources like artificial intelligence to help us work smarter, to help us save time, there are certain places where you still have to be. So when somebody is consuming your content, yes, maybe you've drafted it, outlined it, maybe you've even written it with all these like detailed prompts within artificial intelligence. And maybe, so this is something that I'm starting to do a lot with artificial intelligence myself, is here's an outline of what I want, this presentation, this workshop, this thing. I need to make sure that I infuse a lot of my own personal stories of what I've experienced when it comes to this topic. Can you please ask me questions that would be helpful for you to draft a script or whatever it might be that infuses my knowledge in this as well? So that's just a really helpful tip for you when we're thinking about this and content that people trust. You have to infuse your personality, whether that's polished and reserved, whether that's fun and flirty, whatever it might be. That's also part of what people buy. They buy from somebody that they can connect with. And that is the beauty. I know, like, sometimes we get in our heads being like, there's so many of us, like, how can I really stand out in the travel space? And there are so many different types of people. Like, usually people who are wanting a destination wedding, they just need the destination wedding. They hopefully only need one. They maybe two in a lifetime. I don't know. But there's only a few people who have that really great skill set for that. So being really able to hone in on what it is you do best, your craft, gets the right people to you. It's not like we're the whole entire ocean. We might just be like this little area of the sea, or this little inlet within an island, and that's where we specialize in. And that's really what helps stick us out, because especially like if we're thinking about the stores, you know there's Walmart people and you know there's Target people, but then you also know there's Macy's people. You might be all three. Maybe you do shopping at all three for different reasons. Or you may be like, oh, I'm definitely not a this person, but I'm a that person. This part of you needs to be infused in that content. If we're being very meta, I mean, you know me, you maybe have been listening to me for years. Maybe this is your first time listening to me, but many of you know I am a bit of a nerd when it comes to things like astrology, and like health is a really big thing for me, and getting refocused on my health. You know, I'm a Latina, you know, I do suffer from a couple health conditions, which is why health is at the forefront. I am very open, but I also love to have a lot of fun, and I do things differently. And especially when it comes to my content, I want to make sure that I'm bringing you high quality resources, and also bringing you my own personal journey of entrepreneurship, because I think sometimes that's what's left out within other people's content, is that it didn't happen immediately, but it did take a little bit of time for me to feel comfortable in being vulnerable with you and sharing the really high highs and also the really low lows of entrepreneurship. But I just think me sharing my story with you is going to be super helpful for you and shaping your own story, because I know, like, hearing from other people's stories of entrepreneurship, I either like avoid certain things, or I lean into certain things, or maybe I get inspired to do things a little bit differently based on how somebody has done it in their journey before. So that's why it's really important to share all the ifs, ands, buts, ups, down, everything, and really give you full on value. And it's not just like this surface level. So when we're thinking about content that can build that type of trust, aside from just infusing your personality, think of educational things. So this is something that I mentioned a lot on my AI webinar last week. Like, it's one thing to be able to use AI. It's another thing that you are the expert using AI. That's what makes you different, because you're able to discern things from what AI might spit out at you, and you might be like, no, this is not how it is. And you can go back at AI and AI can be like, oh, you're right. Or you can use it to kind of like just further expand on different things that you might know. So I'm thinking travel tips, destination deep dives, frequently asked questions. I know many of you, we've had a very crazy March because there's been some different conferences that have been happening. The River Cruise Expo just happened. Europe just had a cruise summit. I think I saw Dream Vacations also had a River Cruise Summit. So there's lots of things that are happening now. From these experiences, if you've attended, there's definitely some tips that you've learned. You most likely have gotten some destination deep dives because you were in destination. I'm assuming that you may also have had like similar questions come up from people who were following you on your journey, because hopefully you're sharing where you're at and all that. So if you haven't done it already, like, do a brain dump of everything that you witnessed, everything that you felt, everything that you saw, everything that you did, so that you can start creating ideas for future content based on this educational content. I will give you a tip, and I think I might record this like as a reel later on. But this past trip, I was not feeling so hot. My stomach did not like me this last trip. And so it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I feel like I probably just need to get an antibiotic. So there is this website. I'm not sure if it's an app, but it's called Mobi Doctor, MOBI, that was recommended to me from the cruise manager for 37 euros at the time of this recording. I don't know if it'll change at all. For 37 euros, I could see and talk to a virtually, like telehealth, for 10 minutes. And that was just amazing to be able to talk with a medical professional, be like, God, this is what I'm dealing with. Is there anything that you can do to help me out? And thankfully, they were able to prescribe me a couple things, including an antibiotic. Just had to wait a couple minutes, didn't send that over. I was able to get somebody to go to the pharmacy to pick it up for me. Super affordable. Europe, I love you for this, because an antibiotic plus another medicine was only 20 euro. And I know in the States that would be so much more money. But I just wanted to put that. This is an example of like a tip or something that you can share. This is something like that I learned myself from these travels, is that especially in a different country that you may not be comfortable with, or like comfortable going to the doctor, at least there still are telehealth options that you can get assistance with. So there's a tip for you that you can use for yourself or clients in the future. Hopefully you don't need it, but at least you can have it in your back pocket. Also, personal types of stories. I feel like this type of content, especially on social media, always gets me the most engagement, whether that's likes, comments, shares, all of that. So if I'm sharing part of my story, my why, my values, even some of the behind the scenes, that has been like, it's always like, I can share a picture of a travel scene, or I can share a picture of myself or myself with other people and loved ones will always outperform the other type of stuff. So that one also, being vulnerable and comfortable, which I know is not an easy muscle. And this is also why this is something that we're going to be flexing a little bit at Summer Camp at Sea, is that media training and being comfortable, being vulnerable, and putting yourself out there, because I think this is so important, especially as a small business owner. You're not an Amazon. Like, I mean, we know Jeff Bezos is behind Amazon. Nobody needs to like Jeff Bezos or anything to do business. Like, you just have the app, you do business on the app. It's different for small businesses. A lot of us who patronize small businesses want to feel like we know you, feel like we trust you, feel like we're in on the things. Like, I will say one of my favorite businesses here in Orlando is called Abstract Orlando. And one of the reasons that I love them is because they are so active on social media, especially in their stories. They're inspiring me to be a little bit better and share more on stories because I can even falter on that myself. But they show a lot of the behind the scenes process of how they clean up the art pieces that we create when we're there. They give us like a sneak peek of future art pieces that they're going to be bringing to the studio. They just share every bit of the journey that I feel like I'm part of them almost. And so I am happy to support their business, and I have a personal relationship now with the owners as well. And they do have like a little membership, like a VIP membership that I will be subscribing to because one, I love doing the art. It's like a fluid art, and like every time it's something different when we go there. And then two, it's just a really great experience because they do prioritize hospitality and making sure the client experience is top notch. So it's not even in the travel industry. It's kind of in the travel industry because it is hospitality, but you can see like when they're able to share, because they have these high expectations when it comes to the client experience. So I just relate to them on that level, and that connects me with their business. And this makes me not only like want to do business with them, but also share their business out. So you can see like there's all these different pieces that help build that personal trust there, along with like the educational and the behind the scenes trust. And then of course there's that proof. That proof, like, are you really what you say you are? So being able to share client stories, being able to share results, like on my social media, I have a testimonials little highlight that's up there. Being able to put testimonials on your website or share like case studies. What does working with you look like? This client came to me asking for this, but actually what they needed was this. And I knew because they told me this. And like really showcasing yourself as the expert, but also how your expertise helped other people have an exceptional travel experience. So being able to like really showcase, and don't be afraid to be asking people for testimonials and reviews, because people who really enjoyed your services are going to be so happy. It will not be any sort of burden on them to give you a really great testimonial. So out of the ones that we talked about, educational, personal, and proof, what kinds of content can you start implementing if you haven't already implemented to like really get that trust factor up? The trust factor is really like one of your secret weapons, I would say, one of your fast passes into getting closer to the sale from the content that you create. I also want you to remember that you need to have alternating calls to action at each of these different funnel stages. And then also, again, I told you anything that has to do with a sale, typically that's not going to be the highest one. But like, if you're asking people to follow, to share, to save this post, to download this thing, they're more apt to do those types of things. If you're sharing on social media that you have a new blog post, or if you have a new YouTube video, they're more apt to do those types of things than they are to do a couple other things. So if you're trying to boost engagement, that's always going to be like shares, saves, DM me, comment below, vote in the poll. If you're really trying to like get them to take a next step, it's really like those action things like read this post, watch this video, check out this story. And then of course the converting is to be able to grab the guide, join the event, book a call. So when it comes to like emails, if you're doing some sort of giveaway, I've given that example before, that's going to generate lots of engagement because people are going to be like, giveaway, I want some sort of giveaway. So simple questions like that. And then calls to action can come in different pieces. I would say every single piece of content that you put out there better have some call to action. Do not put a piece of content out there that does not have a call to action, because that's an empty piece of content. You just wasted your time if you're putting out content out there and there's nothing. You've given them like no follow-up on what to do next. So do yourself a favor and put a call to action there. So when you're mapping out what this funnel can look like, not only is it figuring out the content that you create for each of the different stages, but then it's, do you prefer to do those discovery calls, or do you prefer to do have this inquiry form? Maybe it's you prefer to do monthly webinars, have people come in through a webinar funnel, and then have them book discovery calls after the webinar. So again, different ways. Everything is successful. Everything works for somebody. It may not just work for you. So you have to find your flow. You have to find what's going to be really beneficial and what works for you as well. Because again, if you don't like being on camera, probably doing videos will not be your thing. So you've got to figure that out. So as we're mapping things, thinking about what's that top of funnel type of content, we've got to think about SEO is definitely going to be important here. So being able to create a keyword optimized blog post, having reels, that's going to be the top discoverability on social media right now. Being a guest on somebody else's platform, whether that's podcast, whether that's a live in their Facebook group, whether that's a live on their YouTube show. So being able to collaborate that way is going to really get you more people coming into your funnel. That's really what the top of funnel content is for, is to get people to get into your atmosphere. So definitely use these keywords and use hooks to draw people in. When we're thinking middle of funnel, so now we've started dating a little bit, it's not you're not just going to meet somebody and be like, do you want to go on my email list? You have to get to know them a little bit. And then they're naturally going to want to be on your email list. So, and this is also why it's important to use different types of content for different types of things, as you can kind of see a little bit now. So email list is definitely not a top of funnel method, but the people that you found from the top of the funnel, you have to keep them in the middle of the funnel somehow. And one of the easiest ways to do that is by having an email list and sending weekly or bi-monthly updates or monthly updates. Again, whatever's comfortable to you. So email list, maybe you do have some sort of podcast, sharing some of the behind the scenes and sharing some of these helpful posts. Really showcase what your process is, what your values is, what your knowledge is. This will also help that when people are ready to convert into a client of yours, they've already gotten the fast pass. They don't have to start from square one. So it's not like somebody has read a blog post and then they're ready to book with you. These people that you've been able to nurture for a little bit are already I'll never forget it when I was focused on the agency side. People are like, oh yeah, I heard you say that on your podcast about cruise retreats. I was like, oh, shoot. Okay, so I don't have to tell you that because you already knew, which was amazing. That helped me out a lot too. So when we're thinking about bottom of funnel, that conversion period, it's really making sure that you have a call to action. Again, do not put out content if you're not willing to also put that call to action. This can be booking links, or this can be just setting up different consultations, or this can be inviting them to a small group webinar or something like that, that gets them engaging and also learning a little bit more and getting to know you a little bit better. This also includes answering objections, explaining how things work, explaining the reality of things, which is a really big thing, especially in the travel industry right now. I'll never forget a post that I saw from a travel advisor that had said, if you want a decent hotel in Italy, your budget needs to be much more than $250 a night just for lodging. So being real about that, because the realities of travel are always changing, and there's certain things that are constants, like that story I mentioned a couple months ago about people still not knowing that the last week of the year is going to be the busiest week of the year at any of the Disney properties. People still don't know like the changing information, but also the information that doesn't change within the travel industry. And that's your job, to educate them on these types of things. Invite them to take some sort of action with you. So it may be easiest to, like, when you're mapping this out, I know I'm a very tactical person, so it helps like when I have a blank sheet of paper and then I can like draw that funnel on the paper and be like, okay, this is the content that I want to engage in at the top of my funnel. This is how I'm going to nurture them. And then these are the ways that I want to close. Again, you don't have to have tons of things on there. And if you're looking at the funnel, you should have more different ways and more options at the top of funnel, and then taper down the options the lower in the funnel that you get, because the top of funnel, again, is most important. It's building your community. You have to build your community in a couple of different ways, especially if you're working at the beginning, especially if you're wanting to revamp your business. Maybe you've been in business for a while now and the things that you've been doing have not been working. So it's time for a refresh in your action taking and your strategy for your business. So I hope that this has been helpful a little bit to get those pieces of your content creation for your travel business in place. Again, that blueprint, you had to make a couple of decisions. That creating the content without the overwhelm, which is so incredibly important, and then making sure that your content is found, to then also structuring out what is your funnel, because you can't just make content without being intentional. The point of doing it is to make money at the end of the day. It's to be able to support yourself, support your family, support your community. And so you cannot be shy about asking for the sale. That is what the sales funnel really is super important for. If you need somebody to kick you in the pants for this, I am your girl. I am happy to give you a grounding and be like, do not be afraid. That is probably one of the best things that I do. And there's many travel advisors who will tell you that. And if you're really wanting to get some in-person action with me, this is where I'm going to invite you to summer camp at sea, because not only are we going to get things done, I'm definitely going to have little small group breakout coaching sessions, maybe some one-on-ones depending on how big our group is. But we're going to get you. This is going to be a reset for the rest of the year that we're having at Summer Camp at Sea. And I cannot wait. I also cannot wait to see the content that you put out there based on these episodes. So even if you have some old content and you're tweaking it based on what we've discussed here, please send that my way, because I would love to see how you're adapting each of the lessons from this content creation series. All right. I have had so much fun with you these past 4 weeks. I will see you again next week. Have an amazing week, everybody.